Hello, everyone, and welcome to this explainer. When I first started looking into the upcoming SEBI CSCRF requirements, it hit me pretty quickly that we aren't just looking at a routine tech update here. You absolutely cannot just pass this down to the IT department and wash your hands of it. If you're a board member or an executive at a financial institution in India, you're facing a fundamental shift in risk management. So consider today's explainer your strategic boardroom briefing on operational resilience. 2026. I really want that number to stick in your mind because it is not just some distant milestone on a roadmap. It's a hard, fast regulatory deadline. By 2026, cybersecurity definitively shifts from being just this secondary IT concern to a completely non-negotiable regulatory responsibility for financial institutions. Look, if your organization is regulated by CBI, the CSCRF audit is no longer optional. That grace period where we could treat cyber threats as just a back-end server room issue, it's over. The regulators are drawing a line in the sand. So ask yourself right now, are you truly audit ready? And I don't just mean, hey, do we have a firewall installed? I mean, if regulators literally walked into your boardroom tomorrow and demanded irrefutable evidence of your resilience against a cyber event, could you provide it seamlessly? It's a heavy question for sure, but it's meant to challenge how you currently perceive your organization's compliance posture.
To get us to that point of true operational resilience, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the 2026 reality check, decoding the CSCRF audit, the shift to executive accountability, where audits actually fail, the resilience roadmap, and finally, partnering for compliance success.
Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the 2026 reality check. Let's set the stage for this massive paradigm shift that's currently shaking up India's financial ecosystem.
We all know the old view, right? We used to think of cybersecurity as just an IT checklist, usually this thick binder of policies just gathering dust on a shelf somewhere. Well, the 2026 reality demands active implementation, continuous monitoring, and real accountability. Regulators don't just want to see the policy anymore. They want the proof that it's actively protecting your business every single second of the day. It's the difference between having theoretical security and provable, rock-solid resilience.
Moving on to Section 2. Decoding the CSCRF audit. Let's demystify exactly what these regulators are going to be scrutinizing when they show up to assess your organization. So, the SEBI Cybersecurity and Cyber Resilience Framework, or CSCRF, audit is a structured assessment designed for regulated entities. But here is the absolutely critical part to understand. Its entire purpose is verifying whether your controls are actually operational and practice, not just sitting there on paper. The key word here is evidence. If you claim you do something, you have to prove it. The audit measures your daily, on-the-ground practice over your beautifully written policy. And to find that evidence, the audit is going to evaluate your entire resilience lifecycle. It starts by looking at your technical security controls and governance effectiveness. Then it tracks right through your incident response capabilities and continuous monitoring. And finally, it evaluates your recovery readiness right alongside your compliance evidence. Literally, it touches every single corner of your operations to see exactly how you govern, respond, and recover. Which brings us to Section 3, the shift to executive accountability. For the C-suite and the board members listening, this is the single most critical shift you must internalize today. SEBI has essentially triggered what we can call the 2026 escalation. Because of this higher regulatory scrutiny, you're now facing much stronger governance expectations and mandatory remediation tracking. And most importantly, this brings significantly increased senior management accountability. The days of just pointing fingers at the IT director when something goes wrong, those are over. Boards, CISOs, and compliance teams now share joint accountability for these outcomes. I'll say it plainly. Cybersecurity is now fundamentally a business governance responsibility. I really want that to sink in. A failed audit is no longer just a misconfigured server or a missed software patch. It is a failure of leadership to properly manage business risk. Your regulatory compliance is directly tied to how you govern the organization as a whole. Let's look at Section 4, where audits actually fail. It's time to uncover those hidden gaps and vulnerabilities that organizations mistakenly overlook until it's far too late.
When you actually look at the most common audit gaps, things like incomplete asset inventories or totally untested response plans, you'll notice something super interesting. They aren't failures of technology. An incomplete asset list usually points to a lack of central tracking, missing governance approvals that almost always stems from siloed IT and leadership teams. Audits don't fail because you didn't buy enough technology. They fail because of a lack of centralized documentation and poor operational practices.
As the source material perfectly summarizes, in many cases, organizations have security tools, but lack proper documentation and audit evidence. You could literally be spending millions of dollars on state-of-the-art software, but without a centralized audit evidence repository to back it up, you are non-compliant in the eyes of SEBI. That gap between paper and practice is exactly where companies are going to get penalized. All right, let's pivot to solutions in Section 5, the Resilience Roadmap. Here is your definitive, highly structured framework for getting prepared. Achieving total audit readiness follows a very clear path. First, you start by conducting a proper CSCRF gap assessment so you can actually find your baselines. That then allows you to move to Step 2, strengthening your executive oversight. From there, you must build a centralized audit evidence repository. You need a single source of truth where all your proof of compliance securely lives. After that, you stress test the entire system with mock audits and incident response drills. And finally, you continuously track your remediation activities. Remember, security isn't a one-and-done thing, it's a constant, tracked evolution. Finally, Section 6, Partnering for Compliance Success. Executing a roadmap like this at an enterprise scale is tough, and it requires specific capabilities and expert guidance. To actually move beyond basic policies and achieve true cybersecurity governance, you're going to need the right partner. The source highlights Lumiverse Solutions for handling the heavy lifting of this mandate, from conducting those initial, crucial gap assessments and comprehensive audits, all the way through to VAPT coordination and continuous remediation tracking. They provide the exact executive reporting support necessary to ensure your daily practice actually matches those strict regulatory expectations. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this really powerful takeaway. The SEBI CSCRF audit is not merely a compliance exercise. It's definitely not just another box to tick. It is a direct reflection of your organization's cybersecurity maturity and your operational resilience. It is inextricably linked to your overall business legacy and your true risk posture. Getting this right means you are actively protecting your organization's future in the financial ecosystem. So I leave you with one final provocative thought to take back to your boardroom today. Will your 2026 audit be a routine validation of your resilience or an embarrassing exposure of your hidden gaps? The deadline is set. The expectations are incredibly clear. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and here's to building a truly secure and resilient 2026.